on mute.
Welcome, Kavita ji. It's indeed wonderful to have you here. Welcome, Sandeep.
Let me also encourage participants to join our various WhatsApp groups. The WhatsApp groups are basically wherein we share the regular knowledge updates and also uh, we have links to these seminars and webinars. So I'm also sharing the links of our WhatsApp group, our Google Forms. I request participants to please register for the same. And if anyone is interested in the baby, basically the form contains ask for certain fields, and we are also would like to encourage participants to share their views in between, or they want to see, like to listen to particular topics or have interest for particular subjects.
Good afternoon, one and all. And at the outset, let me thank the think tank group for giving me this opportunity to be here. Thank you to my speaker who just ended for a very informative and very comprehensive presentation. See, I've been auditing for NBFCs for big group companies.
Okay. So talking about the session, what we're going to basically cover is on the compliance side for the NBFCs. After a very knowledgeable session from Mr. Ramesh trying to talk about the NBFC scenarios, we'll have Kavita taking ahead on the compliance and other issues on the NBFC areas. Yeah, over to Kavita.
At the outset, a humble thank you to the think tank group for giving me this opportunity. I've been auditing big groups with NBFCs for quite some years now, and with whatever experience I have, I would make an earnest attempt to answer your queries and share my practical knowledge as well. However, the NBFC area is a very vast and evolving area, so I consider myself to be a learner and would appreciate your feedbacks. The slide on your screen is an answer to a question which was sent to us in advance. That a borrower is having, or an investor of an NBFC is having a complaint, and what should he do? So the first thing is he approaches the company. If the NBFC, the company, is not responding to his satisfaction within a month, he has an option to approach the ombudsman, and within a period of 1 year from the date of complaint. There is a limitation or law of limitation here. The regulator for the NBFCs is the Reserve Bank of India, the RBI. The company is listed with stock exchange. The regulator is SEBI, the Securities Exchange Board of India. And for the companies, any company, it is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MCA. All the three can be approached at the same time. The regulators today are demanding huge disclosures in their forms and returns, in turn collecting very huge information. And this information is collated, analyzed, compared using data analytic tools and techniques with the help of professionals. The regulators today are more well-informed and powerful as compared to what they were earlier. Now there is more transparency in the system, and the possibilities of manipulations have reduced. Now, if you go by the word systemic, it has a dictionary. In the legal dictionary, the meaning says involving a whole system. So probably they want to say that those NBFCs, the impact of the performance of which will have a vast and huge lasting effect on the economy, are these systemic NBFCs. Now, the RBI publishes consolidated instructions on rules and regulations governing the NBFCs. These are called as the master directions. The typicals of the NBFCs, which we just heard from the previous speaker, which are in public domain, have compelled the RBI to tighten scope of compliances for the NBFC sector. The master directions published in February 2020, the updated one, clearly states that the master directions have been amended as it has been replaced rather than showing the changes in the track mode. Now, the internal auditor of the NBFC, as we know, is actually, unlike the stat auditor, it's the auditor for the management, of the management, and by the management. So the objective is to comply with what the regulators want the NBFCs to do. So the board decides the policies on the basis of these framework given by the regulators, giving it to the company, and the examination and evaluation of the internal system is then evaluated by the auditor to understand whether they have been actually implemented in the right spirit at the organizational, departmental, or the functional level. Now, NBFCs have a robust computer environment, the IT system, and so to determine the security and controls in the information system and the data, whether it's in place and effective. The other role is to plug in the gaps which we have in the internal control system, and also to assess the quality of underlying assets. So that the asset don't turn out to be a loss asset over a period of time. Now, the advantages of an internal audit is, the first and the foremost is the slapping of the penalty is avoided, which the regulators would done it if the internal auditor would not have been there. The consulting resource, the auditor is also called as the consulting resource for the review of the policies and procedures and other administrative activities, and this results in the cost saving and as the processes are optimized. He is also a consultant for the development of new and significant modified functional areas, especially in this computer-based environment when you have to put some new information, new systems into place. So they are a good consulting source. They can do it well in advance or before they are putting the system on live. These are the areas which I've been covering in this next few slides, which I feel are of importance to an NBFC. The returns which are to be filed are actually XBRL format. Now, what is XBRL? XBRL stands for Extensible Business Reporting Language. It's a standardized reporting format now followed across the globe, across the regulators and organizations. RBI has introduced XBRL to NBFCs in October 2019. Nothing much has been actually published by the RBI with regards to the returns in XBRL format, but the names, content is not very clear, but the returns which were till now uploaded in the Cosmos setup, the online return filing system, the ORFS, has actually been stopped for a few NBFCs whom RBI has contacted during the lockdown period. So what RBI has done is contacting one by one all the NBFCs of what is XBRL and how they have been training those companies and which returns, the returns which are actually visible in their login is what they are supposed to file, is what instructions they have received from the RBI. So from 1st September 2020, what supposedly all this NDSI, the non-deposit systemic important companies are compulsorily required to file in the XBRL format, and the others which are non-SI are still in the Cosmos setup. But what we can foresee is sooner or later, these all NBFCs have to come to the XBRL format of filing the returns. Now, these returns are too extensive, too exhaustive, and at the end of the presentation, I'll show you the few tables. In fact, there are many in number, which a person has to, which the client has to fill before submitting the returns. The due date is 15th of the following next month. Some are quarterly, some are monthly. And the name of the returns are given here. Ombudsman, this is the new, the in thing for the NBFCs is the grievance redressal system. Now, according to the legal dictionary, or if you go by the legal meaning, a person who is appointed by the parliament to investigate citizens' complaints is what ombudsman is. Now, the first example of appointment of such an authority was in Sweden in 1809. Now, in the Indian context, an official who deals with the complaints made by public against the government or an organization, it could be a bank, NBFC, or an insurance company, is an ombudsman. So in the link given up, we have the registered address of the registered address of the entity of the NBFC, the jurisdiction, the ombudsman in that jurisdiction has to be contacted by a simple plain letter, and henceforth the ombudsman shall approach the NBFC, who will have a nodal officer, a principal nodal officer, to give an answer to the satisfying redressal to the complaint. So these are some reasons that, you know, the government has cited out for you approaching the ombudsman, and the applicability is to all deposit taking NBFCs and for NBFCs which have asset size of more than 100 crores with a customer interface. So this customer interface is also a very important requirement when you have to, you know, approach an ombudsman. Some questions like, how can a customer file complaint? It is if, now this is a requirement, if the customer has not approached any forum, then he can file a complaint with the NBFC ombudsman not later than 1 year after the reply from the NBFC. At the end of 1 month, he will go only after the end of 1 month if he's not satisfied with the way the NBFC has dealt with it. Now, how does an ombudsman take his decision? The proceedings before the ombudsman are summary in nature, and they try to settle it through coalition. And if not, then they can issue an order. Now, the most important thing is that it's an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. So a customer can anytime go to any other entity, any other regulator with a complaint, or any other court or forum or authority for redressal at any stage during this time. Now, liquidity coverage ratio. This is again a new amendment in the 2020 Master Direction, and it is for very large NBFCs. Why very large? Because generally NBFCs was dealing with 5 billion rupees of 500 crore benchmark. Then it moved up to 50 billion, that is 5,000 crores. So it has now started to distinguish the NBFCs above the 5,000 crore asset size. And this liquidity coverage ratio is of importance because it has to be, the first stage is to be complied by 1st of December 2020. Now, liquidity coverage ratio actually aims to have the companies, the proportion of highly liquid assets as compared to the total net cash flows. So the idea is that the entities should ensure their ongoing ability to meet the short-term obligations. So it is essentially a generic stress test which aims to anticipate the market-wide shocks and to make sure that these institutions have the suitable capital preservation and they don't run out of the short-term liquidity in case there is some disruption in the market. Now, what are high-quality liquid assets? High-quality liquid assets are those assets which have a very high potential to get liquidated in cash easily and quickly. So under the Basel III, if you go by Basel III regulations, it is the 3 categories of liquid assets, the level 1, level 2, and level 3, which level 2B, sorry, it's level 1, level 2A, and level 2B. Information technology, not only because it is a regulatory mandatory requirement in all the NBFCs, the setups have actually made it the need of it. So information technology framework should fulfill these 3 criteria, where C stands confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability. Now, this, you can say, the direction has been bifurcated into two sections. So the systemic companies again have more stringent regulations, and the lower ones are a little more, they have gone softer on these companies. So the committees that have to be formed, the roles, responsibilities, who can head these committees, who can be the member of these committees, what are the policies, what points are to be covered within the policies. Suppose you have a group, so your one group holding, or one department, IT department of one of the companies of the group is also giving services to the other group members. So what should be the basic parameters which should be fulfilled? And they also speak about the security of the data, the information, about the cyber threats, the IT operations, also the requirement of information system audit, which has to be carried out annually. The business continuity plan, if we see that BCP and DRP, the disaster recovery plan, has been a little more favorite topics whenever it comes to compliances, be it SEBI, be it RBI, because they want that the customer in the end should not bear the brunt. It's always said that when the axe fall on the feet, or if your feet falls on the axe, finally it is the feet that is going to be injured. So it is finally the borrower, the person who has actually, the lenders, the people who have invested in the company, who will actually bear the brunt if something goes wrong. Now, increasing instances of cyber attacks have also been coming in the news recently. So cyber audits are also becoming a necessity. Now, the data earlier was from the client server, and the networks were very safe, secured, controls were very strong because they were in the location of the client's office. Now the work from home, which has now become a new normal, the data is traveling the public servers. They are reaching the systems of the auditor or staff or any other professional. So the exposure of data is actually risking ourselves to cyber threats. So it is in our interests to have these audits done. As rightly said, a stitch in time saves 9. Now, this again is a new addition in the 2020 Master Direction. This 269 SS and 269T has always been a part of income tax and favorite with the auditors regarding cash, where 20,000 was the limit for any of the repayments of loan in cash or giving a loan in cash. But after the budget of 2017, the NBFCs have been given a special permission by the CBDT circular, even the housing finance companies for that matter, that repayments of loan in cash can be done provided each installment is less than 2 lakhs. So here the installment amount is made 2 lakhs, not the aggregate for the whole year, except in the following situations. Now these situations, you can say a stress account, an NPA is wanting to give you in cash, and then you can't say that no, I can't take in cash. It is wise enough and it is allowed regulatory permission to take it in cash. And the second is, if there is a repeated bouncing of checks or NASH, where the recovery seems to be going in stress, the NBFC can take a decision to accept it in cash. But these are exceptions, and only in these exceptional cases that these deviations can be attended to. The other important NBFC compliances are the Chief Risk Officer. Again, this is applicable to all NBFCs more than 5,000 crores and above. And they have started, different type of risks have to be attended to. So it is like the CRO will be responsible, and the support system in the kind of ALM support group has to be formed with the chief operations or the chief executives from different operations head will be a part of this to give him a proper support. The Ind AS and IGAAP reporting of financial statements is again something which is very, very important. And because of the difference in valuation, that evaluation of investments that we have to have because of Indians, the NOF might get affected. So these issues are also to be understood and implemented very diligently. Now, this information to be proper and authentic, what I mean by this is, the same information is asked by the regulator at multiple places. So some places they are auto-populated, generated by the figures you put, at other places you might have to input the figures, and this, if they do not match, and then there might be a concern. So it is very important that we cross-check the two figures. So as it said, if the truth is one, there is nothing to worry. But when it is a manipulation, there might be a concern. So we have to be really very, very careful to present this, especially while filing the NBS returns. Now, I have kept for you all to show some screenshots of the elaborateness of the returns that we are actually required to fill, the XBRL ones. And the ones I have covered too are actually only the ones which are for the non-deposit taking. And these are the ones which are for those systemic important companies. Now, this is the DNBS1. Are you able to see the screen, share screen? Is the file visible, the Excel?
Yeah. Now
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a screenshot of the required tables that have to be filled, in a DNBS1, which is an important financial parameter return. So if you can see, the table number goes up to table 48. So these are the details. It's a vast, elaborate, exhaustive, comprehensive return, and the details, like earlier, if the NBFC returns would have been ready by the client by maybe in 3 or 4 days, this actually takes about, no, earlier it was probably a day's job. Today it takes 4 days, because the cross-checking of the information, the error messages have to be dealt with. So this is for DNBS1, this is for DNBS3, the tables are 26. These all are in separate sheets. So because these are not available in public domain, this for sharing, I have got it from one of my clients' login. So I'm sorry I couldn't give a lot more detail about it. But yes, like the short-term dynamic liquidity will have 3 tables. DNBS 4B and DNBS 13 overseas is also made compulsory. If not applicable, nil return is compulsory. So this was a view of the XBRL returns. And with this, I think so I can, offer myself for any of the questions which any of the participant would have for me.
Just wanted to share that for non-deposit less than 500 crore also they have started in XBRL. Now NBS 9 and 8 is ruled out.
Okay. So the RBI is actually contacting the companies directly. So there are a few people who are getting, there are some who have not yet got. Like my clients have not got it as yet.
No. They have sent everything in May itself, and by
Okay.
June they have given time, and maximum time was July. I'm running one NBFC, so
Okay.
we have done all the filings, right?
Okay.
And even quarterly FDI also they have started DNBS 13.
Okay. Because, well, we don't know, like a few of our clients who are right now still asking feedback from us on the points of how to show the NBS 9 information over. So even while discussing with them, they said no, that they are accepting the NBS 9. That's what it's been said or
Because the
proposed.
30th September returns have been filed in the Cosmos setup and they were accepted. And they have yet not got a login and from the RBI. So
Well, we'll still check up and come back. No,
yeah,
no.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Over to Manoj or Anupam.
Hello.
Yeah, Manoj.
Yeah, Manoj, we can hear you.
Yes, Aditya. Yeah, Sandeep. Yeah. Any questions we can take? It's open house. Hello. Anybody has questions on any other issue also? And open house, more than welcome. Hello.
Yeah, I think it's done, Manoj. It's
So
around
this
one.
time, we have to file that because
What is the future of compliance going ahead?
The compliances technically are going to be going up only. The current scenario is that RBI as well as SEBI, the two main regulators, are actually going very deep, asking for a lot of information, collecting a lot of data. And the data what they're collecting are also getting, like, they are connecting with multiple people, like even they're getting information from international borders also. So the scenario is that everyone who is filing any information have to be very cautious and very particular whatever they are doing over. But the compliance levels are actually increasing. Unfortunately, businesses are getting affected because of the increase in the compliances. We carry out a lot of audits for stockbroking industry, and people say that only 10% of their time they are trying to spend on the business, and 90% of the time is going complying with what the SEBI is asking for. Like, the compliances requirements have gone up. The professionals will have a good time.
Everybody is welcome to raise topics relating to the NBFC sector or open house on capital markets, any sector, any stock. The team will be very, very glad to cover important relevant topics in future also. And welcome to cover any stock, any sector, capital markets, global, local, domestic, foreign investor issues, FDI issues, election issues, pre-result, post-result issues. We have already shared in the group. NBFCs like HDFC have done huge fundraising, huge interest from foreign investors, and in a short time, they have been rewarded handsomely. L&T Finance has its board meeting early next week. They have announced fundraising. And yes, markets are turning cross 12,000 at Nifty level. Global markets are also reaching high. There's a good festive season ahead, celebrations ahead, parties ahead for people who have participated at good prices. Could be turbulence ahead also because of uncertainty. Compliances are regulatory aspects. Ind AS has been applicable to NBFC sector. So far, it is not applicable to banks because they have requested for deferral year to year. But luckily, NBFCs are more strict. You have stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 assets. So it's compliances and conservative financial statement. Market feels it as good for the sector, but banks have run up. NBFCs are not run up because of cost of funds is higher. Access to liquidity is lower compared to banks, except AAA rated NBFCs who are able to get very access to low cost funds like Bajaj Finance, Aditya Birla Finance, L&T Finance. Very few people have access to low cost funding. Otherwise, it is fundraising from banks. Plus, banks need their NIMS to cover, satisfy their investors and to cover up their NPAs, credit cost, operating cost also.
Okay, we have one question in our chat box. It talks about, it's from Mr.
Please
Kishore.
videos on so we can see everybody.
Yeah. Okay. We have one question from Mr. Kishore Botra talking about it because of the COVID-19, the financial assets and the income from financial assets is more than 50%. Whether NBFC registration is required. Well, there's no clarity on this. However, what I feel is that the NBFC is getting formed because of a COVID-19 situation. What technically you want to say that the company is not basically into the business of providing NBFC services, but because of the COVID impact, the other businesses what the company would have been doing over would have not been able to do, and because of financial income and the financial assets are getting more than 50%. Well, the current COVID-19 situation is going to be very different, and which I am very sure the regulators will try to listen to that to some level. And here, if it's only the difference in the percentage of 50%, getting of income and 50% of financial asset, it should not be an issue. You can still represent it with your past performance, and that should not be a problem. Yeah. Any
There
other
is
question
a
that we have?
very important question. Very nice. How do you judge which NBFC's book is actually good? And a bank mentioned and NBFC is mentioned, which said they had good books, but they did not. Here, the issue of regulatory compliance is there, and also issue of integrity is there, and also what the regulators and auditors are doing. So we are aware of the issues related to the board in DHFL and Dewan Housing and Yes Bank also. So monitor the company quarterly results actively and also get a feel of what is happening in the ground. Often people say there is no smoke without fire. So keep your ears to the ground and look at the financial reporting. Also see the profits they are making, the segments which they are, and it is often you have to take a deep dive into the company's business way of working. So even today there is a lot of concerns about quality of assets in NBFCs. I mentioned high rated NBFCs get access to low cost funds, and in these NBFCs which were mentioned, Dewan Housing, ILFS, there were downgrade issues by credit rating agencies. Somehow they woke up little too late, isn't it? So then they were requested by SEBI to keep constant vigil and keep sharing whatever they know in time. That is very crucial because we are dependent on raters and auditors, inspections, divergence reports in banks, and regulatory intervention, whether by all the regulators, MCA, SEBI, RBI. So I think that's the way forward.
So just to add to what Manojji said, I think he's very right in these two examples. There were clearly corporate governance issues. So whatever you do, if someone decides to hide it and play it, and nobody can do anything except those who are inside the company, and that is how these rumors come out. That something is happening inside the company, but you can't act based on the rumors. You have to just keep your ears and eyes wide open. But having said this, I think very clearly there are very basic ground rules which I think I have followed for my assessment. See, definitely the number of gross NPA or delinquency at one point in time or a trend assessment may not be able to give you a bigger insight into what's happening. So, see, first thing I think is that I definitely believe that you can't sell money. You can't kind of go on aggressive marketing of loans. You give money where it is needed. If you give money where it is not needed, more likely you're going to end up in trouble. Very simply put, whenever the sector is growing, whenever the company is growing beyond a particular range, I mean, it differs from company to segment to segment. So we can't have one particular rate applicable for our companies. But if you think a company is growing at a much faster rate, I think definitely there is a very clear red flag. One time or the other, either it has to slow down, or it will have asset quality issues, or it'll end up somewhere going doing something which is not kind of sustainable. So I think as far as the lending business is concerned, a very stable growth, a very sustainable growth, and the biggest challenge in assessing a lending company is that you are assessing the management straight away, right? I can assess a cement company given the business, uh, 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 given the prevailing situation about the industry, about the demand, which I can assess. But here I have to assess the ability of the management to assess his borrowers, right? So it's a directly assessment of the management, what kind of policies is having, what kind of collection efficiency, collection mechanism he has, and how he has performed in the past, how he has, how the management has reacted to the external situation, how the management has reacted to, crisis and all that. So it's a very complex process. It's difficult to kind of say that you will have a few tools in hand and then you will be successful. Because I'll tell you, there were rumors about those two companies which you mentioned, Yes Bank and DHFL. But believe me, there are rumors about other companies as well floating in the market today. Very, very clear, you can hear. So, but still, can you act upon it? Probably you can be a little careful about taking, say, further exposure, or you can be careful about, doing whatever regarding that company. But these rumors have been there for 10 years, at least as far as my knowledge is concerned, in respect of certain companies. So we'll have to be careful about it. So in all, I think I would like to just sum it up saying that you stick to your basics. I think you will be far, far better in assessing any of these companies.
Some insights I could share. Look at the yields in listed bonds. Market always raises red flags. Yield in such companies are often higher by at least 1.5 to 2.5, 3%. There are lots of instances in 2020, whether yields in international bond markets, issuances by Indian companies, or bonds, NCDs, listed NCDs, listed on Indian stock exchange. Even in terms of the bank, one name was mentioned. Look at the perpetual bonds, where they could not get most of the money because of the government regulation on takeover of banks. Perpetual bonds of such banks were giving about a 2% yield higher. A private bank giving 2% yield higher is really isn't it a red flag? A lot of people will say, let us put, I know lots of HNIs put, and lots of even provident funds of government PSUs put. They did not get back the money. So when you get excessive return, that itself becomes a red flag. In most of the companies recently where failures have happened, there has been warning signals. International markets yields are have been excessive. In Indian markets, yields have been excessive. Even today, there are concerns about some listed NBFCs, which are giving a little higher yields, but they are trying to raise funds and fix their debt equity ratio and reduce the average cost of funds. So the key issue is sustainability, survival, then growth. Growth can happen only if you are able to survive and sustain in the market, which has been very difficult, particularly in Q1 of the financial year, current financial year. Luckily, since September, there has been a recovery. How long it lasts? I hope we all hope it lasts longer. But the way numbers are coming in, festive season or pent-up demand, then it will be normalized demand. So some people feel Q4 will be much better. They are preparing for it. Some institutions, they have said we don't have visibility of Q4, but they are confident of November, the festive season, huge pent-up demand, whether online shopping or even retail has picked up in many cities, particularly in rural areas, tier 3 cities, tier 4 cities. So it could be opportunity for us, as well as a little caution also on how we approached festive season and the year ahead. 2021, IMF and also our finance minister has said calendar year highest GDP would be in India, which will lead the emerging markets. And with the change in, with the uncertainty in US elections getting over, hopefully there would be a larger stimulus to look at their economy, which ultimately the flows happen and it benefits the emerging markets also. So the India growth story would happen again, hopefully 2021, it could be among the really good years with high GDP growth, which we have been targeting over 6, maybe over 7, if possible. Feel free to share any key relevant issues and yes, any sector, any country, any stock, any issue. Those who have not put their videos on also, welcome to put their videos on.
Okay.
So,
Can we request Aditya to
everybody could
put the
see
videos to
them,
market, please?
and we have the best of the new digital world.
Yeah.
People say it's going to be a digital economy.
Over to
Data is
Aditya.
new oil.
Yeah, I think it was a very wonderful session, and thank you, Kavita, Ramesh, Sandeep, to take up this presentation and definitely answering all those questions which were part of the session. Uh, uh, yeah, I think we can end this session today and look forward to have more participation during our next session. So yeah, thank you so much.
Wish you all a very, very happy Deepavali coming ahead. And probably we'll catch up the next week after Diwali. So our next session will be again on 21st of November. The timing being from 11 to 1. And we all will be happy to have more participation and more exchange of views and ideas. Thank you,
Happy
everyone.
to all.
Happy
Happy
Diwali to
Diwali.
everyone.
Thank you. Wish you all a happy Diwali.
Thank you.
Happy Diwali.